Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with you this morning, and I'm joined by Jerry Christopher from Serenity Chapel. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
So we found out about you through, I believe someone sent out a news release, very interesting, about what you're doing, and it's a 12-step program that's based on biblical principles.
Right.
First, let's talk about Serenity Chapel. How did you become involved with this and this particular program?
Well, actually, it all started back in 2008. I was in the process of losing everything I had due to a gambling addiction, and I had previously been in recovery from a drug addiction. So I met a pastor, and he was kind of counseling with me, and then we ended up going to, as in my wife and I, we ended up going to their church, and he told me that he'd been looking for a program with Christian principles for those who are struggling with addictions. So we started looking. We found this program called Celebrate Recovery, which had originated out of Rick Warren's church in California at Saddleback Church. And so we found this program. I started going. My wife and I went to what they call a one-day seminar, got all the information, got all the material that we needed, and we started a Celebrate Recovery program at our church. And that was in December of 2009. And I've been part of that program ever since. But along the way, I had this idea that, because I had gotten medically disqualified from work.
Oh.
So after 36 years of working at the same place. So we started looking for, I wanted to open up a restaurant. I'd always wanted to open up like a little diner. Mm-hmm. So I kept going through that and never could find the right place. Then I decided I wanted to start a church, for recovery. So
a church specifically for recovery.
A recovery church,
wow,
yes.
Wow, yes, okay.
Yeah, so that kind of hit a wall, and I was just kind of confused as what God wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. Well, then it turned out that I got a call from a pastor who had heard about me from somebody else through recovery, and he said, "Why don't you come start a program at our church? And but we'll need to call it something else." So that's how Serenity Chapel became or got started.
I'm sure there are people who are listening right now who are struggling with some kind of an addiction, as drug, alcohol, gambling, so forth, shopping. There can be all kinds of addiction that can be very dangerous. At what point do you know I need help?
Well, the way that we look at it in recovery is if there's something in your life that's causing you problems, then you probably ought to take a look at it and see if it is an addiction. Because a lot of times what happens is we don't start out doing something expecting it to be an addiction, but then it takes control.
Is there a way for a person? I'm trying to get to a way that there can be prevention. Does a person need to be at the point where you say, I was at the point where I almost lost everything? Is there a way to identify, this could lead down a dangerous path and maybe I just don't want to go there any further? Is there prevention for addiction?
Not that I know of. Most people have to reach a bottom before they will even admit that they have a problem. Because unless there's consequences, they don't see it as being a problem. And of course, everybody deals with denial. Nobody wants to admit that they have a problem and something has overtaken their life. When you get to that point where you can admit it and get the help that you need, that's when the healing process starts. Mm-hmm.
I'm really grateful to hear about a place that's a 12-step program that's completely based on biblical principles, but I'm curious as to how this program differs from AA or other programs. I know that AA was also founded by Christians.
Right.
So what makes this program different?
The difference would be that it's not just one specific thing. It's for anything. It's for addictions to drugs or alcohol or shopping or gambling or food, you know, and it's also for people who are struggling with depression, anger, anxiety, grief, all kind of things. It's just like a broad spectrum of issues that people deal with that's not just specific to one program.
Is that what you found, that sometimes diving into something to try to numb pain from grief or depression is one of those things that leads a person down the road to addiction?
It can, sure. Just recently, I had somebody ask me, why do people do drugs or drink alcohol? And I had really never been asked that question before. So I just thought for a minute, and I said, well, I think there's three reasons that happens. Is because, first of all, it's just out of curiosity, you know, or experimentation. Second, I think it's peer pressure. And then third, I think that we try to numb the pain. You know, we try to make everything go away.
So at Serenity Chapel, remind me again, the name is Celebrate?
No, it's just Serenity Chapel.
Serenity Chapel, and the name of this particular 12-step program was Celebrate?
No, that's the program that
it's based on.
That's based on.
So Serenity Chapel is the 12-step program.
Yes.
Well, take us through the steps. What do we need to do to start?
Well, the first thing, step one, says that we admitted that we were powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, and that our lives had become unmanageable. That's the very first step. The very first step is admitting that you have a problem.
Is that hard for most people, Jerry?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't want to admit that something's taking control of our lives because we want to be in control. We leave God out. We leave everything out. We want to be in control of our lives.
And as you say, someone can be in denial for quite some time. Does it help? Can there be a loved one who says, like an intervention type evening where you sit them down and say, you need help?
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time.
Are those successful?
Sometimes. Sometimes. What I have found in recovery is that you can only help someone if they want help.
So the first step to recovery is realizing you've got a problem. We've heard
That's
that
right.
before. What would be the second step?
The second step says we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And that actually is another major difference between some of the other fellowships, is that, you know, they give you a choice of choosing a higher power, you know.
Oh, that can be dangerous.
Sure. It's, you know, a lot of the programs say, you know, as you understand it, you know, God as you understand him. While we believe that there's only one God, and we believe that in order to recover, you need a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what we believe. We are not a religion. We're not a denomination. We believe what the Bible says. And in the Bible, Jesus said, not anybody else, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes.
And no one comes to the Father except through me.
Yeah,
That's what
we've
we believe.
said this before, that when you're on a plane and they say, you know, they go through the whole spiel at the beginning of the flight saying, in case of emergency, there'll be a light, there'll be a path that lights up, follow that path. Nobody on that plane says, well, isn't there another path? You know, no one questions that. So why must we figure out, well, certainly there are other ways. And it seems to me that pick your God sounds like another way of getting into another addiction.
Yeah, and a lot of times people spend their whole life going from one addiction to another. Even those who struggle with alcohol are dually addicted to drugs as well.
It's all searching, isn't it?
It is. It's all searching, trying to find a way without God is the way I like to look at it.
So I'm really curious now, because we're only on step 2, and we are recognizing and submitting to Jesus Christ as God.
Right.
And that's only step 2? There's
Right.
10 more after that?
Yeah, well, step 3 goes on to say that we made a decision to turn our lives and our wills over to the care of God. Some of the other 12 steps says,
Well, we're going to take them one at a time. So let me stop you right there.
Okay.
How difficult is that for the people that you have been working with, perhaps even for yourself, to reach that point where not just I recognize there is a higher power, it's God, He loves me, He died for me, it's Jesus. Now I'm going to turn over my entire life over to Him. That seems really counterintuitive to someone struggling with addiction in the first place.
sure, it's hard to do. Because we, as I think just human beings, whether we're in recovery or whatever, we want to have control of our lives.
Yes.
And it's hard for us to give that control over, especially to, someone that we just have to have faith in that we can't see. But
And yet, we're willing to give our lives over to the control of a drink or a drug or something else. Well,
Yeah.
we're really crazy as human beings, aren't we,
yeah,
Jerry?
go figure. Go figure. Yeah.
We don't make much sense, but this, what you're talking about, makes a lot of sense. So are there helpful things that you use to help people in this turning over that control part of the steps?
Well, one of the things that Serenity Chapel is one part of it is that we are a church as well. And on Sunday evenings we have a church service. And what we do at that church service, not only talk about recovery, but we also talk about the importance of having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And we teach and preach that accepting Christ as our Savior is our only way to salvation and our only way to heaven. That's what we preach.
Is there something that goes along with this at around this stage of recovery where you're assigned a person that you can reach out to, a fellow human being who's been there as well, saying, I'm struggling today?
Oh, sure.
Does that come later on? Have I jumped ahead?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I would think that,
How important is that mentorship and the accountability of having another person in your life?
okay, well, accountability is one of the keys to recovery and spiritual growth. Without any accountability, it's just words. But we have learned in recovery that this is a journey that you can't take alone. We've tried to do it ourselves, and we failed. So we have to realize that we can't do this alone. If you want to go in order with the steps, step 4 goes on to say that we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And then step 5 goes on to say we took that inventory and we confessed it to God, to ourselves, and to somebody that we trust.
Wow. All right. We're going to be needing to take a break here in a few minutes. Actually, in a few seconds. So the inventory, what kinds of things do you look at? That sounds like soul searching, but that sounds like quite a process, quite an exercise.
It is, and it's very difficult because what you have to do is you have to go back as far as you can remember, and you have to write down. You don't just say it, you write it down, all the good things and all the bad things that you've done in your life.
Whoa.
So you can see who you are, what happened, and what you need to do to change.
Oh, Jerry, you're asking us to write down things we'd rather forget.
Oh, absolutely. But hey, revealing your feeling is the beginning of healing.
Wow. Oh, my goodness, that's good. All right, say that one more time, then we're going to go to a break.
Revealing your feeling is the beginning of healing.
Wow. We're speaking with Jerry Christopher from Serenity Chapel. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.